I am not employed by owner.com, but the success of my business, I feel like, I'm sure Adam sold me on all the features and benefits that first night on the phone, but I think it was a little too overwhelming till me actually seeing it in action, and all the different components of canceling WorkStream, my hiring app. I have a dedicated marketing manager. I have a loyalty program that I now no longer have to pay for through Square, and I don't have to pay for the marketing that I used to do, these cheesy, stupid little emails through. I mean, like, it has replaced and made my life so easy, and I don't have to physically dedicate more than 5 minutes a week to communicating to my account manager what my goals are. Here's the picture of my special, and they take it and run with it. And I get to just operate my restaurant.
This episode is brought to you by Restaurant Systems Pro. With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guest, co-owner and co-creator of the Do Da Diner, Timirie Shibley. Timirie, my lady, are you feeling unstoppable today?
Totally unstoppable.
You are unstoppable, sister.
With a little dash of whimsical and laid back.
Yeah, and I don't always get to hang out during a football game on a Monday night with my guests the night before. And I actually got to hang out with both you and Patrick, and it was a lot of fun. And we're here. And I know this is gonna be a great story because I was like, don't tell me too much, Timirie, and you just let it out. And I know the story already, and I'm gonna try to pull back the layers, but I'm giving the listeners a teaser. It's gonna be good. And Adam Guild called you out. Adam Guild is the owner of owner.com. Probably one of my most recent best interviews in terms of marketing and the details around marketing. And I drilled him, and he delivers. Yeah, he delivered, and he had such great things to say about you and what you're doing here. He called you out, and I know you have a lot of respect for Adam too.
I do.
Yeah.
We've been blessed.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's gonna be a part of your story. But I can't wait to dive into who you are and how you got to where you are today. But let's get that motivational, inspirational, ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you got for us?
Our quote of the Do Da Diner. We reserve the right to get smarter.
We reserve the right to get smarter. Mm-hmm. Dive into that.
You know, I don't come from the hospitality industry, but I have been tagged as a foodie from as early as the age of 2.
The age of 2?
Mm-hmm. I had a babysitter who said I threw a fit when she served me Kraft macaroni and cheese versus my mom's homemade. But then I explained to her I've never eaten a boiled hot dog since her either, because I can still see that oil floating on the top. No, I am truly a tried and true foodie. Food has been my pleasure center. Even growing up pleasantly plump, I ate my weight in flour fried tacos, and I loved, but fine dining was truly my coup de grace. I loved it. My parents knew I wanted to go out for a fancy dinner when I was 6. I mean, I just loved being served. And I ended up in my second chapter in my adult life marrying somebody who was an acquaintance of mine in high school who was in restaurant management. I knew his dad had a restaurant. But fast forward, it's an awesome thing when a foodie marries a chef. Let me just tell you.
Life just got good.
Yeah. And here we are 13 years later, and I would never have dreamed that I would be a restaurant owner, let alone a restaurant that has survived 11 years under the most crazy circumstances.
Yeah, we're going to get into that and echo that opening quote one more time.
We reserve the right to get smarter.
Yes, and I love that mindset because you're going to have an idea of what it is to open a restaurant and the challenges that come with opening a restaurant, and you're going to have this picture of what you think the right way to do is, but you're constantly going to be getting challenged. You're in the world around you is going to be evolving. So you're a student of the industry, and you have to reserve that right to constantly grow and be proven wrong every once in a while, right?
Absolutely.
That's kind of what I hear when I hear that quote.
Well, and you have to be humble
Yeah.
and be a dry sponge, because when we opened, literally Patrick took responsibility of the back of the house, and that left me with front of the house and back office. And I had never worked in a restaurant.
Yeah, I can only imagine the crash course.
I mean, we had 30 days from the time, self-created, we gave ourselves our own deadline, but he looked and found this restaurant on Craigslist, and I was home. I was a traveling account manager, traveling Kansas and Oklahoma, and I was home.
What were you managing? What kind of accounts?
I was selling online curriculum for at-risk students to school districts in Kansas and Oklahoma to help reduce the dropout rate and to bring in those students into this amazing online curriculum that incorporates all the opportunities that the internet can give. So if you're learning about astrology, for that curriculum to pop up and show the Milky Way in live video because it was able to stream into the NASA, that was way ahead of when online or at-home learning became a necessity.
Was this homeschooling or like a homeschool? Okay.
Yeah. So
it's interesting. I feel like I'm going to digress a little bit. We do that sometimes on the show, but I think I'm so excited for the future because, especially for that, like the school system, because like I don't know, like no matter where you are, I think the school system is going to diversify and I think it's weird right now because I don't know if everybody necessarily wants one source of education, because with that becomes one source of like influence with values, and not everybody has the same values. So I think that private schooling is going to become much more accessible for independent. I don't know why I'm talking about this right now, but I'm just kind of interested in the subject, I guess. But.
No, it was it was ahead of its time. If only I was selling it after the pandemic and the online, I don't think all the school districts, if they would have embraced a curriculum like what we had available for purchase versus everybody trying to create the wheel themselves, I think it would have been a much smoother.
Well, I'll tie it back to the restaurant industry.
Okay.
Right now, like there's resources, whether you're a 12-year-old kid in the school system or you're an emerging restaurateur, there is curriculum out there for you. You don't have to do it alone anymore, and there's information flows freer than ever before. And just knowing that you don't have to do it alone, you can join a community, you can get a curriculum, and there's so many. Restaurant Unstoppable is doing this. I know we have Restaurant Systems Pro that does this. We have different past guests on the show. I think Chip Klaus with Restaurant Strategy does this. Like whoever, you can choose your professor, and there's communities out there where you can go and you can find your inspiration. Owner.com, there's owner.com, but restaurantowner.com too did this, and there's owner.com, and I know that they provide these services, but they're also educating people. So like you don't have to do it alone, and like information is flowing so freely right now. So back to your timeline. So you're doing this, and
Patrick was so busy in the back of the house. He had a staff of 5 and literally had no time to lend.
Scoot your seat in for me a little bit.
He had no time to train me on what it was going to mean to be a front of the house manager. I had been a sales manager, and I knew, even though our menu didn't get created until a week before we served it to our friends and family, I knew that it was going to be gourmet comfort food.
And you guys got married just before opening, right?
A year and a half.
A year and a half before opening.
So, and he was a bachelor. I married a 45-year-old bachelor, lifetimer in the restaurant industry. And this diner truly, I've had 2 daughters, and they're 24 and 26 now. But giving birth to a diner is very similar and parallels.
Your third child.
Our third child.
In your new marriage.
In every way, shape, or form. So, I, just like parenthood didn't come with a manual, I had no time to really research any kind of how to put systems in place. I had 30 days. This was a Chinese restaurant that we converted and painted and did everything ourselves.
Yeah.
And opened. And it was about a month in that somebody from the Kansas Restaurant and Hospitality Association stopped by to welcome us, and that resource was the best connection for us in our beginning, because now I am a part of a bigger community. Not only Wichita is a pretty rockin' entrepreneurial town.
I think the Midwest is on fire right now in general. It's really like there's so much opportunity here. I think people are being pushed out of like the bigger coastal cities because cost of living is getting so outrageous. And the other variable too.
Shh, we like it.
Yeah,
here.
it's a secret. Don't tell anyone. But I think the other variable why there's so much opportunity in these, I like to call them fringe, or my friend Chris Dimmick would correct me and call it a momentum market, where there's just so much opportunity because there's literally so much space and room, and people are, the dollar goes so much further here, you know?
And you know, in Wichita, we're one of the top test markets for new concepts.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Well, Pizza Hut started here. Freddy's Frozen Custard, White Castle.
Yeah. Well, people are becoming less and less dependent on geographic for working, right? And I think that's
True.
the other variable, too. So you're going to have all these people making their big, like, you know, close to multi-six-figure incomes. They're like, why are we living in New York with this money? Like, well, let's go. So, like, I actually just had on the show Sam Ford, and she was living in Boston, and she and her husband moved to Lexington, Kentucky, because the money just goes so much further.
She just gave herself a huge raise.
Yeah, exactly. I am curious. Paint the picture of what Patrick was doing before Doodad Diner. Let's get an idea of who Patrick is, because I know he's obviously a huge part of all this.
He was born into a restaurant family. His dad was a restaurateur, and Patrick went to culinary school. He's dyslexic.
Me too.
Yeah.
So many dyslexic people in this industry, and ADHD.
Absolutely. And he tried to go to traditional university, and that lasted for 1 year. He was going to go into the Navy, and that didn't end up panning out. And he ended up going to culinary school. And he had worked his way. He attended a Catholic high school, third child of 4. He paid his own way to this high school as a cook at Bennigan's, and chose to do that he had washed dishes at his dad's restaurant, but quickly learned he didn't want his dad as his boss. And Patrick has such a he has worked in so many different concepts. And dating him, I didn't really understand his chefness other than what he would wow me with as he was courting me.
Yeah.
And the dishes were amazing and over the top and all those things. But when we were dating, he was the general manager of an upscale, fine dining, fun lunch and dinner spot, the place to hang out on the weekends. In Wichita.
Oh, Wichita.
In Wichita.
Okay.
At Yaya's. And when we started dating, we were long distance.
What year is this?
2009 is when we started dating. And I was in Kansas City, he was in Wichita, and we would talk on the phone every night after I got my kids settled into bed, and he was home from work at 10:30, and then we would talk on the phone every night for hours. Well, funny, because of Facebook, I reconnected with a high school friend who happened to be attending the same Chiefs game that I was. And we made plans that over Thanksgiving, when I came home, we were going to go out. And we went out to Yaya's. And Patrick, who we knew we were acquaintances in high school, he dated all my dear friends. While we shared a mutual best friend, I don't know that he and I ever had a conversation, but we attended all the same parties. So we knew who each other were.
Of each other, yeah.
And so when I walked in it was Black Friday.
Almost, what, that'd be
In
15 years ago?
Yeah, in 2009,
Yeah.
Black Friday. And, no. Yeah. No. 2008. I apologize.
No,
it was
it's fine.
2008. I moved
Got it.
here in 2009.
Got it.
And when I walked into Yaya's, and he goes, Timirie Van Dam, haven't seen you in like 30 years. And I was like, Patrick Shibley.
That name, by the way, Timirie Van Dam, your parents did you a favor. How do you forget that?
Well, my middle name is Glee. Timirie Glee. And do you know I didn't get invited back to the 8th grade Glee club? I can't sing a lick. But, and so it was funny. Patrick was very popular, very handsome.
Still is.
Yes.
Don't tell him I said that.
He just walked up like a ghost, just appeared as we were talking about him. But we were actually, and my girlfriend that I was meeting also went to high school with him. And we were walking back to the table, and the single woman that I am at this point, seeing one of the most attractive guys I remembered from the high school days, walking with no wedding ring. We get to the table, and he says hi, and yo, we should all meet up afterwards and whatnot. And then he leaves the table, and I go, Annie, what's Patrick Shibley's story? There's no ring. Is he divorced? Like, I had this, I don't know why I thought I'd have a chance, and she goes, nope, he's never been married.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, after 5 years of being a divorced woman, I thought there was another great one lost to a different preference of sexuality than I had, and I was somewhat discouraged. And she said, oh, no, he got left at the altar. And I was like, oh, thank you. Oh, okay, so that's not so bad. Story really isn't he wasn't left at the altar, but it was a few days prior to that. But anyways, long story short.
Why are you telling this story right now, Timbre? He's on the camera in the background.
He did end up coming and meeting us out that night.
Yeah.
And then it took another, 6 to 8 weeks before he sent me a text during March Madness and was like, hey, when you coming home again? Let's hang out.
Yeah. We're talking about the origin story right now, how you two met. Yep. Yeah.
So that started, and we started dating long distance. So actually, Britney Spears was our first date.
So 2008, you started talking. 2009, you're moving to Wichita. 2012, you open your restaurant. Is that correct?
That sounds so easy.
Right? So take us to the point.
There was a wedding in there.
Yeah, get on the mic. Move that sucker.
There was a wedding in there at some point.
Yeah, we got married eventually. So at what point did the conversation of let's open a restaurant together come into frame?
When I came in from watering the tomatoes, and he goes, honey, there's a restaurant for sale on Craigslist downtown. Let's go look at it.
What year was this? Is this 2012? How fast did it happen?
Yeah, that was in 2012. That was in...
end of July.
End of July. We signed the lease like August 10th.
Okay.
We might have seen it August 7th or 8th. Signed the lease 2 days later and opened on September 12th.
So pretty quick.
A month.
That's pretty quick. So
yeah, we didn't have a business plan.
So what was the state of this restaurant? Like, what was it before you took over?
This restaurant, or the building, was built in 1959 by our ex-landlord as a Radio Shack and a Tandy Leather.
A Radio Shack and a Tandy Leather. Mm-hmm. And is that what it was before you moved into it?
No.
Because it was a restaurant. It was a Chinese food restaurant, I think you mentioned.
Half of the building was for a nonprofit, and the other half of the building had been 6 different restaurant concepts in 9 years.
Yeah. And Patrick, you were front of house at this point? You were managing a restaurant, or you were back of house?
I was seriously looking for a job. So, and I was nobody would hire me because I was too old.
Yeah.
You
mind me asking how old you were in 2012? 44?
45.
45?
Yeah.
Yeah. So too old, too much experience. You're fine. He's a little louder than you are. Keep going. So 2012, you're 45 years old. You're struggling to find a job, too experienced. Pick up that train of thought.
And I really didn't have a huge desire to open a restaurant, but I figured that was the next step.
So you didn't have a desire. You didn't have a desire, but you knew if you wanted to make your own future, that was kind of the option for you.
Yeah. I wanted to stick in this business, and quite frankly, I love this business.
So prior to opening this restaurant, you were mostly back of house chef, correct? Cooking
Mostly in the front of the house.
Mostly in the front of the house.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And I worked in the back of the house pretty hardcore till when I was 32 years old. And then I came out front and started doing some things with the back of the house, but mostly out front, front of the house stuff.
So when you opened this restaurant, you were going to be the cook or the chef, and Timirie was going to be front of house. Was that the plan?
Yes.
How'd that make you feel, getting away from where you like your or at this point I feel like you kind of
well, it's
in both
not.
lanes.
She always says you chose your job.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I didn't really choose it. I just knew I needed a restaurant, and this is where I needed to be.
Yeah, so the reason why I love your story is because so many people can relate to it. So many people who have a dream to get into the restaurant industry, who have worked in restaurants, they maybe had a lane, maybe it was back of house or front of house, manager, chef, cook, or whatever. But the act of owning a restaurant is a totally different beast from working in a restaurant. Safe to say?
Yeah.
And we had no intentions of owning a restaurant. He was actively looking for a job. It took 18 months, and he was too old, had too much experience, and had been paid too much. And so they could hire somebody half his age, work him twice as hard, and pay him half as much. So he was applying for jobs right along when he found this restaurant for sale. So we were on food stamps. I won't lie. We were living on child support from my ex-husband, and I was in a new account manager territory, sales position that was going to build with time as I grew more customers. But
Slide that mic over just a little bit. Pull the base.
But we literally, I wasn't sold on that we had what it took to open a restaurant. And on a handshake loan and $10,000, we literally
I said,
made it happen.
All we gotta do is put out some good food, some good service, and people will come.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. Just focus on the four walls, marketing, and being present. The hard part is it's hard to scale people, right? It's hard to scale Timirie and Patrick because you two are unique individuals. So help the listeners at home understand where you are today. Kind of paint the picture of because I know talking to you, you've gotten a lot of national press and recognition. So from zero restaurant ownership, zero Timirie restaurant experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were, I think the closest thing to ownership for you, Patrick, was management, right?
Right.
With no plan, no dream to necessarily open a restaurant, you get this national by 12. Pretty quickly, you guys scale and you get this national acclaim.
Well, it took a little bit. But
paint that picture of where we are today before you get done.
Where we are today. Today, our restaurant has been open over 11 years. We expanded 4 years ago and went from 80 seats to 180. We currently are open 30 hours a week, and we'll hit $2 million in sales this year with no liquor license.
Wow.
It's a lot of biscuits and gravy.
That's a lot of eggs.
7,500 eggs a week.
Wait, what year did you go from the 80 to 180?
In 2019, right before we had reopened, just about 6 months before the pandemic shut us down for a few months.
So bring us back to August of 2012.
Mm-hmm.
You find this restaurant. What were you feeling? What was going on inside of you?
I'm just glad we didn't have time to really assess those feelings, because it was Patrick and I we're dreamers. We believe in the impossible. And when there's two dreamers in a relationship,
it's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. It would sure be good if one of us had any bit of parenting, no. We believe we can do the impossible. And we also believed that it was...
my mission statement to change the world?
To change the world. But it really wasn't an option to fail. I mean, here he was, a new stepfather of daughters that were 12 and 14.
Going from being a bachelor to a stepfather.
Yeah. And I mean, I knew he had the chef ability, And I knew in my professional career, I was extremely successful in any position that I had gone into. So through customer service. So, and the fact that he and I, as owners, operators, were the first ones in the building and the last one out of the building. And I love to talk to my customers. And so between giving them the good food and then making them feel appreciated and actually talking to them, and for whatever reason, that's where it grew us to today, where, you know, my restaurant's now like in middle school, and it's got its big girl panties on, and Mama Doodah doesn't have to be here
that,
from
Mama
open
Doodah.
to close. Well, it's a huge family.
So back to Patrick, same question. What were you feeling? What was going on? Like, but just before you had open, what was the feeling?
Get open.
Was there anxiety?
Oh, well,
Fear?
you just don't. I mean, I already had a lot of anxiety because I hadn't had a job. So, you know, getting me to work was a good idea.
What was the struggle in the first, from like August to say, you opened in September, but like what were the biggest roadblocks, the biggest challenges for you guys?
Well, just employees and making, you know, doing things right. Like, first day we'd start, you know, the first week we'd start out and I was like, okay, we're staying late. We're staying late today to wash dishes after lunch.
Right.
Because I haven't got a dishwasher yet. Because I didn't really need a dishwasher.
Right.
But
You
then,
handle
you
it
know,
around. Things got
a
busy.
month goes by and I'm like, I got to hire a dishwasher.
Like, what was it about this location that you think was a good, like, what was the appeal about this location? What made it good?
$1,200 a month
Okay.
rent.
But was there like, what did you have? Was it turnkey?
It was turnkey.
Okay.
It was
turnkey.
a Chinese restaurant, so we had to just take out the wok. Remember that wok
And we
grill?
found a used griddle.
And we found a flat top, and then we got rid of all the little teacups and went to garage sales and friends and Goodwill and got our dishes and brought furniture from home and from friends and family, and everybody kind of pitched in.
All in, what did it cost you to open this restaurant?
$10,000.
Basically.
$10,000 plus $1,200 a month rent. Everything else was turnkey.
I wouldn't advise the way we did it though.
Oh no.
Well, okay, well that's why we're here.
Yeah,
that's
no.
Why we're
I
here.
mean,
what would you like?
we were in desperation. We were literally, if we'd have put much thought into this, we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation.
But I
at
think
all.
there's also truth to like paralysis by analysis, where people never start because they try to think of every detail. And I think there's two ways to open a restaurant.
Absolutely.
There's start very small and just cash flow and people to determine your growth, or do it pro forma, figure out what it's going to cost you to open, and figure out what it's going to cost you to stay open for
And
a
have
year.
all the bells and
go
whistles
out
and a full
get all the
staff.
money. But that's not possible for everybody,
No,
Especially,
and who knows if they even like their food? I mean, there's not a proof of concept yet
Right.
when you spent all
so
that money.
I think the approach that you took is a very way. It is a way to do it.
It
know?
is.
It
was
maybe not the
totally by
easiest way.
accident.
You might need two dreamers to pull it off, because you'll have because you tap
Yeah.
into that frontal lobe and you just start asking like, well, how do we do this? Well, we have
Right.
friends. They'll give us. You want to chime in?
I needed to go check on him.
You're
Yeah.
good. Go
well,
work,
thanks for
honey.
joining us. If you get
Yeah.
any more windows, come hang out.
Appreciate all your hard work, honey.
Yeah. I was hoping you'd come say hi.
Um,
So back to that line. So
Well, I also had no budget for advertising. So while he had the challenges in the back of the house, I mean, we didn't open with 7 servers and 2 dishwashers and 7 or 8 cooks. I mean, we opened with enough people, and as business slowly grew and each employee was doing as much as they absolutely could is when we added one more staff. We opened with a cash register. We hand wrote tickets. We whipped our own butter.
Yeah.
We shred our own cheese. We started with very basics. and no bells and whistles. I couldn't afford any bells and whistles.
Do me a favor, pull that mic closer again, just the bass, just pull it. There you go.
So I now know that was truly a key to our success, was growing slowly.
Yes.
And I mean, it was 2 years before we got a POS system.
Right. It's not as easy to do what you and Patrick did today. You know, it's harder and harder
I would
to find
agree
those
with
opportunities.
that.
Cost of goods are going up, labor expenses going up. But there are, that being said, there are other options. Like, I don't think people thought of pop-ups like what they do today. That wasn't
Right.
much of a thing back in 2012, where
Right.
you don't even need a brick and mortar. You can develop your brand online.
You absolutely can.
Yeah,
No,
so-
the pandemic was our biggest change
Yeah.
because
Well, we'll get into that.
Oh,
we'll get into
okay.
that. But I want to find out. Okay, so how many square feet in?
we now have 5,000 square feet.
But before, when you opened, how many square feet?
We had like 2,500.
2,500 square feet, turnkey. You basically duct tape together all the plates and the forks and the knives, everything you needed. You started with a cash
We had a
register.
spatula in the oven is what kept the oven door shut so that the bread could bake.
So if there's a will, there's a way is the point I'm trying to point out.
Absolutely.
And just having this mindset of like, we're willing to be, what is it, corrected, or willing to learn,
We reserve the right to get smarter.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people are so afraid to start because they're afraid of failure, or looking stupid. But just owning your studentness, being a student, and just owning it and reserving the right to get smarter is such a great mindset.
Well, and I had to hire people that were all smarter than me because I hadn't been in the business. So it was truly you know more about this than I do. So it took the guard down that anybody who has an idea of any way we can be more efficient in any single task, please speak up.
Yes.
And
That's
it
a
went
culture
from
right there.
one example, we used to scoop the whipped butter with a melon baller and put it into a little 2-ounce cup and then put a lid on it. And it was not a fun pre-shift job. It hit me one night in the bathtub. Why are we not sticking this butter in a Ziploc baggie, clipping the bottom and just squirting that in? Like, wouldn't that be so much faster? The staff thought I was a genius the next morning. And just little things like that that we found that
1% better every day.
every single day.
Yep.
Every single day. And I'm a talker, so I have talked to many, many, many customers, and everybody brings different skills. So I've never been afraid to say, hey, let's barter some biscuits and gravy. Give me some of this help on the social media.
Yeah.
You know, really
don't have to
tap
do it
into
alone.
my own community that's already coming in my door
Yeah.
to say, if you like this, will you help me grow? And I had to get creative. I mean, we had no budget for advertising, like I said, so I had to find ways to outreach customers with no budget. Well, I saw in the local paper there was going to be a chili contest that 2 churches were hosting. Well, we made a pretty darn good chili. Patrick, I'm signing us up. It was on a Friday night. We were literally the only contestant that didn't belong to one of the 2 churches, and we had only been open about a month and a half. And people would come by and they were like, oh, no, well, nice to meet you. Now, where did you say your restaurant is? And it's in downtown. At the time, nobody came to downtown Wichita
Why?
for anything more unless you had a job here.
Yeah.
Our downtown, like many other urban Midwestern towns, was really dilapidated and old, and just it's had a complete revitalization.
I wonder what role restaurants played in that.
Oh, they would. I can't deny.
This
I
is-
can't
yeah.
deny we have stellar restaurants
Yeah.
in downtown
Yeah.
now, and downtown has done a 180.
This industry is going to change the world. I'll say it again.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's not a little community anywhere that doesn't have a local eating hole
Yeah.
where people gather, and
Yeah.
and humans need that.
Absolutely, and more now than ever. And I think we're really starting to learn more about the brain and like that's the science behind just like psychological evolution or evolutionary biology, and like it's just we're learning so much, and we really do need each other, and we need each other around food. These things are so important. But back to what you were saying, like there was 2 churches and people were coming in saying like, where are you? And I took you off track.
No, and we ended up winning. We didn't win the whole contest because apparently that's something that one of the 2 pastors, that's a tradition that one of them will win it. But we won the People's Choice. And to this day, 11 years later, we still have regular customers that we met that night. And I guess my point is I had to get creative to get out and get the word out.
Yeah.
Another way that I would do it is just watching the local news and being cognizant of whether it's families or businesses or situations that I could provide a meals, something along with what I had to give, and go and offer it. And whether they had heard about my restaurant or not, I would give them a little, here's what we are, but please don't feel the need. I'm not doing this so that you'll post something on social media. In fact, I would really rather you not, because that way I can continue to give as I am able to give and not have to turn maybe people away who would ask. And so what came of that, when you give willingly without asking for something in return, I can't say it comes back tenfold. It came back 100-fold.
And you can't track it. And you really, and like, that's really the mindset that I'm trying to promote here at Restaurant Unstoppable too, is that you have to add value to everybody you touch. And you just have to have faith that if you have good intentions, you're going to get burnt every once in a while. Like, but the good outweighs the bad. Probably about 80
every
20,
time.
80-20 is usually that number comes up time and time again. 80% of the people are going to take care of you, and there's going to be 20% of a-holes out there. We're never going to change that, but overall it's going to be good. It's going to be good. So thinking about your story and like your evolution, what was like the biggest tipping point for you guys in the early, like the one thing you did aside from putting the butter in a baggie instead of things like that, but on a bigger scale that like really helped maybe increase cash flow or efficiency, or maybe give you a little more freedom?
Well, that would have come in the last 14, 15 months, honestly.
Really? Wow.
And so you have to know a little bit of the backstory. Before the pandemic, on weekends, we would stop carry-out orders.
I'm going to take a quick break to thank our sponsors, and we'll be right back to dive into that.
We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that right now, Restaurant Systems Pro is offering a no-strings-attached 60-day trial that will help you improve your systems, increase your profit, and find better work-life balance. All you have to do is click the link below.
We're back, and I was having you set me up. I was talking about, the question was like, what was like the major tipping point, the evolution going forward, and you were starting to tell us about some things you started doing differently. I think go forward from there.
Okay. So the only marketing I had ever done since the beginning was we would do a different daily special and soup each day. And all I could do was take a picture of it and post it on Facebook. And then start my busy day. And unbeknownst to me, I gave my customers and future customers a reason to go to my page if they wanted to see what the special in a picture was. So that was before Facebook got so sophisticated with the algorithms. So by the time those did kick in, I was already having, and I just did an organically grown, a very slow climb. Took me till 10 years to hit 20,000 followers. But
Pivot that mic up for me.
Facebook was my only, and then reaching out to the community, finding stories on the news, giving
Getting involved in the community.
Yeah, any kind of place that I did a lot of fundraising. We had Doodah Dollars coupons in a 1, a 5, and a 10. And when Patrick and I are out in the community, especially when we pay, it's not part of a gratuity. It's just the $10 dollar has his and I's picture on it, and it's worth $10 off at our restaurant. And we would give those out. We would give it out to when people would come on Mondays and Tuesdays when we were closed and would take the time to drive down here and try to get in. We'd open the door and give them, here's for your gas and your time, and I'm sorry we're not open today, but please come back. So we were always in a very hospitable, giving, how can we help kind of mode. But when we finally decided to do delivery.
When was that? What year?
That would have been in 2017.
Was that going to be in-house? Was it in-house delivery, or did you outsource?
No, we outsourced, and it was with a locally owned company. I had no desire to partner
So
with
like a courier company?
It was called Delivery.com, and
That was a local company, Delivery.com?
I know.
How'd they get that?
Well, whether it was a franchise,
okay.
but I know Brian owned multiple cities,
Got it.
and it was my way to stay away from Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub. And we honestly wouldn't be able to handle the volume
Right.
that would have come from a DoorDash, because carryouts, literally, when you have an hour and a half waiting room or full and a whole diner full, and when a carryout order comes in, it trumps all those
Yeah.
people. And so Patrick a lot of times would just shut off our carryout and delivery. Well, now, fast forward to a gourmet breakfast and food diner is probably the least thought of carryout meal. I mean, packaging banana bread French toast in 9 different little containers to keeping the sauces and the sauteed apples and candied pecans and apple butter and whipped cream all separate, including syrup. Like, we weren't good at it. We didn't have the space for it to execute it. So, and then Delivery.com went out of business. So we contracted with DoorDash. It was probably the most frustrating month of my life.
What year was this? 2017, still 18?
Uh-huh.
Yep.
And 19, the pandemic happened in 20. So it would have been more like in 19. And part of the agreement was they had to leave with our food in their thermal bags, because my husband's like, this food is hot now, and I just need it to know that it's going to be transported in a thermal bag. We ended up, the DoorDash drivers weren't in that same mentality for whatever reason. They didn't like those thermal bags. They would fight with us. They wrote the worst reviews we've ever had to date, and there were 5 of them, and they were just mad that we wouldn't give the food because they didn't bring a bag.
Yeah.
And so it was just, we actually stopped because DoorDash gave us free fees for 30 days, and we ended our contract on day 28. Was not worth it. So I
You
had
can't
to
control your brand. You can't control the
No.
experience. Like, that's what, like, Patrick and Timirie are the reason, and your team, obviously, your team is a big part of this, are the reason why this place is successful. And you can't control that level of quality, that level of attention to detail, that level of give and F when the
Right.
food goes out your front door in the hands of somebody who doesn't have the same value as you.
Right. We were very well aware it could do a lot more damage to our brand.
Yeah.
And so that's when we were going to try to build our take and bake revenue stream. We were going to do cooking class revenue stream, because we didn't think we could get that online presence. I knew we didn't have
What were your pain
30%
points?
margins.
So what, like, really spell out the pain points, the things that were holding you back from, the online presence.
COVID. People weren't coming into the restaurant. And I didn't have a good delivery.
You were a restaurant that was solely dependent on the volume you were doing in your 4 walls.
Yep.
You blew out this wall in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So you increased from 80 seats to 180 seats, and you were making all of your revenue on butts in seats.
Absolutely.
And when COVID hit, all that revenue went away overnight, and you didn't have the digital representation you needed
At all. We had our Square POS system.
Yeah.
That was what was linked to my website for online ordering, and it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare for me to place an order. So we had to. Okay, so we opened back up. We were closed for 3 months, and in the meantime, restaurants had pivoted and started offering family meals and all those things. We had to start all that from scratch. We eliminated 30% of our menu because we didn't have the staff to be able.
Did you bring that back, or did it stay the same thereafter?
It stayed. I mean, staffing continues to be a struggle like it never was before the pandemic. The service industry had a mass exodus.
Yeah.
So we had to figure it out. And when you're serving 50% capacity in your brand newly renovated, just spent $1 million and bought the building.
Right. I mean, that's what I'm thinking
6
about.
months
Like 2019, you're probably like, woo!
We were
like,
jamming for 6 months.
Gangbusters. We
Yep.
finally made it.
Yep.
And what you did is exactly what I would tell people to do. Start small.
Yeah.
Which is what you did. Like cash flow and people determine your growth. And like, I don't know, what's that thing? Some like small, like microscopic creature that just absorbs its prey. You know, like you grow and you absorb the space around you. You knock down a wall when that business goes out. Like, and then you just slowly build. You just grow out and you
keep
absorb.
eating more bacon and you keep growing.
Yeah, and you just grow and you finally had built the business to the point where you more than doubled your potential throughput because of all the seats you had, and COVID just rips that from you. Just says nope,
Rips it.
nope.
Rips
But the
it.
cool thing is something else happens. So go along your story. So you have zero digital presence. You're using your Square POS that integrates with your website. What was your website like? What tools were on your website?
I had an embedded link to my POS for online ordering.
So like a literal, just like a click here link.
Yeah.
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 So what's the issue with that? Why, like you said, it was hard for you to order food.
It was. It was
the user
not,
experience?
Yeah, it was not user friendly.
Yeah. How much revenue were you doing in online ordering before that?
It's embarrassing.
Just tell. Can you remember?
Yeah, it would be anywhere from
making it
500 to
vulnerable
1,500 a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, when we had delivery.com, maybe we'd hit 1,500, but it wasn't promoted very. I mean, I guess it was up to me in my Facebook post, which was the only place I ever advertised. Yeah. Hey, don't forget, you can now order delivery from my website.
I think there's a part of your story that's missing too. Like, you're truly loved by this community. You know, that's not coming out because you told me like oh, you know, we've had like this media outlet, that media outlet, and like all this national acclaim. People driving from all over, like hours to come eat here. Get into that. Paint that picture of how successful you were from the outside looking in.
Wow. Well, the outside is really nothing spectacular, so people were always deceived by what we appeared, what our curb appeal was.
I think you're taking me too literally.
Oh.
From the outside looking in, meaning lines out the door?
Yeah.
Full packed to the gills?
Okay, so how did that happen? A few months after we opened, one thing I would say is we had two gentlemen on a cold January, snowy, that walked over from the Hyatt, which nobody in Wichita walks 2 blocks anywhere. And they pretty much, we were only a few months old, and they pretty much had Patrick and I's undivided attention, and they were dressed nice in a suit, all the things. And they were with us for about an hour and a half, and just, you could tell they were foodies, and they traveled a lot. And my mom was back there rolling silverware, and my junior high-aged daughters were busing and whatnot. And they were just fascinated with the story, but truly loved the food. But they were sitting at the counter and watching my husband do everything, and they were just fascinated. They could tell it was from scratch. It was at the very end of that conversation that we had, like we would have with any other customer, that I asked. I was like, you guys aren't from here. Where are you from and what are you doing in Wichita? And they were with ESPN. And they were in town to call the Wichita State men's basketball game.
I'm literally staring at a Wichita State basketball like jersey and poster of Sports Illustrated.
And this was
behind
actually
me.
the practice court.
Oh, cool.
So we have, in that time, that one connection, they gave us a shout out during the game that they were there announcing. The Shockers went on that year to go to the Final Four. So from the very first ESPN visit, the next game we had different announcers that were told to come, and it began to snowball.
Word of mouth, baby.
And then it became the first ESPN announcer to doodah before the other announcers would get their meal bought by the other like Freya Frischilla grabbed me after I introduced myself and welcomed him to the diner. He goes, "Hey, can you grab your to-go menu and come get a picture with me?" And when I did, and I didn't really know who he was, but and then I did, and he was so excited because he was the first one there.
Yeah.
So those shout outs, but then Harrison Ford comes to town to Wichita because we have the best world's class flight safety training. And he comes and he's a private pilot, and he came to our diner, and that story actually kind of went viral.
Is it the Spartans? The flight school that's out in Kansas, Spartans or something like that. I almost went to school out here because I went to school for become a commercial pilot. Sorry, I'm digressing.
No.
So Harrison Ford, who else?
So he came, Henry Winkler, the Fonz. Like, I always dreamed of being Joni, and Henry Winkler was the most gracious guest, and nobody really knew he was in town. Koch Industries brought him in as a speaker. And somebody told him before he left L.A., when he mentioned he was headed to Wichita, told him he had to go to the Doodah Diner. So he and his wife popped in here on a Friday afternoon before they went to the airport, and they literally spent 2.5 hours here. And Pinky swore that this was the best meal they had ever had. He made my entire staff gather in front of the Doodah sign. And it was just he was as in awe of us as I was in awe of seeing Arthur Fonzarelli that I had grown up watching
so
Happy
cool.
Days.
I think the other variable that I want to bring to the story as far as the impact that you have, the reach you have, by just focusing on doing the job well, giving an F about what's happening in your four walls, the food and all this stuff, right? It echoes out when you do the little things and you take the time to talk to people. And I experienced it the moment I walked in. The moment I walked in, you were just sitting at the table with your guests. Some other complete stranger who you never met before was over here talking to you like he knew you for years. And like that's what happens. It's more than just the food. I want you to know your food is amazing, but it's the connection with the guests. It's the time to ask what brings you into town. And it's getting out of the pitch, the canned responses, like, how are you today? Like, make it personal. Take a literal interest in the people that are there.
It's about them at this point. It's not about me and my restaurant.
And the other thing, too, that I really want to point out, too, is that you took something that was considered a negative, like, derogatory slam.
Doodah.
The Doodahs down in Wichita.
Yeah.
And you owned that shit. Pardon my language. You said, yeah, we're going to call this the Doodah Diner. We're going to own our doodahness. Mm-hmm. And you turned the derogatory slam into something that the community is proud of.
Do you want to know something funny about that? When we were Googling, we thought of Doodah Diner, and then we threw it out to some friends who said, absolutely not.
Why?
It's a derogatory. Why would you have a negative? You're in downtown Wichita. Do you think anybody is going to want to say, hey, let's have a business meeting at Doodah Diner? And so we put that thought away, and we just kept, again, 30 days to construct and create, write a menu, and execute and open our doors. We stopped thinking about it. And about 2 weeks before we were ready to open, I had to get social media. I had to get signage. I had to get it done. And put it again through another group of friends and threw it out there, and everybody unanimously was like, yes. it has to be Doodah Diner.
So now that we painted this picture of your national acclaim, the people who love you, the relationships you have, giving respect back to the town of Wichita, the city of Wichita, owning your Doodahness, even with all that, even with these relationships, as you march into the future, if you don't have the systems in place, the digital path of least resistance to get food out, it can hurt your business.
It was hurting our business, and I had no choice. And I'm just going to say it was another Facebook cosmic connection that, for whatever reason, I stopped. There was something on an ad that talked about the small business owner, the small restaurant owner. Like, there's a lot of resources out there that the concepts that have 4 or 5 locations can justify having. But there's not a lot out there for the one little shop guy like me and Patrick. And it was my introduction. I mean, this isn't really a pitch for owner.com, but I can tell you
testimonial.
There is no single partnership connection that I have made in our 11 years that has had such an impact. And that is one place I will pat myself on the back for getting smarter.
Yeah. And, I'm going to take this opportunity to echo the core values of Restaurant Unstoppable. We have integrity. We are students. We are educators. We are collaborators. We are communicators. We show up when we have fun. And, really, to fast forward to that point of collaborators, I don't think you can do it alone anymore. I just had a conversation with Mark Forgione, and he was saying, I'm worried about the mom and pop independent operators of the future because it's getting harder and harder and harder to do it with one restaurant. You need to be able to, quote unquote, do more with less, meaning you need to get more efficient, and you need to hire people who are better at what they do. But the truth is, I think it's harder and harder to find those people that are better at what they do. So I think, honestly, you have to lead more in the direction of finding technological partners that give you the systems and processes to do more with less. And you might look at I don't know, like let's get back into your story. Like, are you technological?
I'm 57. I don't have to be. Yes,
Patrick technological?
He is absolutely not. It was a great day when we got rid of his flip phone.
As a person who's dyslexic, I can completely resonate with Patrick. I do not want to stare at a computer. Right. I choose to drive across the country to sit across the table from people because computers ruin my life. I just do not integrate with them. I need a technological partner. I need somebody who can handle that so I can do what I do best, right?
100%.
So I totally feel like talking to you really reminds me of my mom and my dad, honestly, because the pain points you're experiencing, if they kept their business going, would be the same experiences that, the challenges they would be. So you have a Square POS. You have a janky website with a link to your ordering. So how did you discover owner.com?
It was on Facebook. It was an ad. And I had just lectured my mom about really not clicking on them ads that I clicked on. And I felt...
What was it about the ad that resonated with you?
It was honing in on the one stop, the small mom and pop. Because I couldn't go up against DoorDash and even think of winning.
Yeah.
I mean, why work so hard to sell some food for it to cost you 20%? Like, just didn't make sense. So
you're already more expensive than any other restaurant around here because you're not cutting quarters. You're putting love into your food.
We don't even have a freezer that can accommodate anything more than our gluten-free buns. I mean, we bring everything in fresh. Vegetables. I mean, the green bean casserole that we're serving today on our Thanksgiving meal, those were fresh green beans.
Yeah.
I mean, so it is a more expensive. And the talent that it takes to create our 300 recipes that go into our menu, it's a higher wage. So we do demand a higher price anyways. So that was challenging.
You're in the middle of the pandemic. You had just spent $1 million on busting out your walls and doing a renovation, adding 100 seats. You're not making any money to cover the note on that expansion.
And they tell us we can open up at 50%.
And you're making $500, and you can open up at 50%, which isn't enough.
After the pay,
to do
it's
the
like
volume.
saying you're going to go to Harvard and you're going to pay that Harvard tuition, but the best you can do is get an F
Yeah.
at 50%.
You're technologically handicapped.
So handicapped.
What's the pain? Like, really, just before we dive into the solution, just really spell out the pain.
Well, I'm going to say Instagram because I really only mastered Facebook. And even my daughter, I knew I had to have a presence. Even my daughters didn't want to try to take the time to train old mom. And so besides being technologically challenged on the POS and trying to get cool things implement onto my website to help, that was beyond me. And who do you ask? What? You're going to call 1-800-SQUARESPACE and ask for a consultation?
Right.
I mean,
So you see this ad.
so I see the ad and I open it and I clicked on it and I think I filled out something, and I am not kidding, within like 2 hours. I believe I first received a text to see if it would be a good time to talk. And then that went into a good 75-minute phone conversation.
Back to this ad, because I asked you, like, what was the appeal?
What
of
was
the
the
ad.
appeal?
You
That
said
it-
that it was focused on the mom and pop.
Oh, the biggest appeal was that do away with dealing with the third-party delivery people. Let us handle it for you. I kind of look at them as my broker. Like,
Owner.com.
I'm a little one-stop shop who I let my people handle that. Like, the most dreaded encounter a restaurant owner can have is having to call customer service to DoorDash in the middle of a rush. I didn't have to do that anymore. That was owner.com would handle all of that. What I didn't know from the beginning, because I think I was just overwhelmed and so excited that I had a solution for online ordering, and I was a little hesitant that they were going to take over my website, because in 10 years I put a lot of work into that website, and never, when people would approach me about, what is it, SEO?
Yeah, search engine optimization.
I was always like, dude, just Google best breakfast in Wichita and tell me what comes up. And they'd be like, dude, a diner. And I'm like, well, aren't I optimized? Like, I don't get it. So I didn't understand that, but I didn't understand that was just because of the organic reviews that would come in anyway.
Four walls marketing, word of mouth.
Yeah. And so
So you
the loyalty program. I mean, there were so many things that the loyalty program, the fact that I didn't know then I'd have an dedicated account manager.
Yeah. Back to you get on this call, you fill out the form. Within how long somebody reaches out to you?
Within 2 hours.
Within 2 hours, somebody reaches out to you, and you're on how long of a phone call?
Oh, with him initially probably a little over an hour.
Who called you originally?
I think his name was Tom.
And what was the discussion like?
He was asking, I was telling him, we had done DoorDash. We had done another local delivery company. I have no choice, but if I'm going to survive, I have to figure out this online ordering. And what I am doing is not working.
Yeah.
And so at first, okay, so you come in and you redo my website and make it a very easable, workable platform for customers to order. Great. I was, and dealing with, they negotiate with the delivery companies. I was sold with those little facts because I needed a solution. And they also told me, the ease of uploading was they promised me they knew how busy I was and that how untechnical I was.
You need the keys to your website.
Exactly. I gave them it all. And such a relief. But that conversation, and I don't know if it goes like this with everybody, but he really loved our story. And
Which we already shared.
yes. And he asked if I would have a problem if the owner of owner.com would call, because he is really hands-on. He's done a lot of research, and again, he reserves the right to get smarter. Adam is constantly learning and researching, and so Adam called me. That was a 3-hour conversation, and by the end of it, I truly felt like he was a son from another mother.
What was that conversation like?
he was so in tune with what my challenges were, yet he's never been a restaurant owner.
Well, he has
Not to mention decades,
Yeah.
like 3 younger than me.
right. He was, I want to say 22
Yeah.
when he opened, or maybe he was, I don't know. Like, I know he was young. Maybe he was 18 when he started owner.com. He was young. But I shared his story. He exists. Like owner.com exists out of his desire to help his mother, who had the same exact
A dog
challenges
grooming
you
business.
had. Yeah. She wasn't a restaurant owner, but she was an independent small business owner who had trouble driving business to her.
Where do you advertise when you're a one-stop shop?
Right.
I mean, there's so many out. There's no way. Thankfully, I didn't have a budget to try to figure it out. But I mean, like I would expect the owner to really do a hard sell on me on his program. Every slice was backed up, like was better than what he explained. The dedicated account representative. Well, that person's just not out to make a pretty email and send it to those people on my list. Philip is asking me what my goals are for the week. What are my goals for the month? Where do I want to be a year from now? What do we need to do to get there? Like, he is that strategic partner that has a vested interest in my success. That partnership is golden. I mean, as a one-stop shop, and I pay one price a month.
What is it?
Don't tell him, but we would pay double.
Don't take advantage of my girl over here.
It's $4.99 a month.
$4.99 a month.
That includes email marketings that go out with a message if I want to promote my weekly special, which we do, but anything that's happening in the diner that I want my customers to know, it gets communicated very effectively. They have a text program. Oh, they have an app now. Doodah Diner, this little one-stop shop, has our own app that I didn't have to do one thing to create.
So in 3 years, you go from a link on a website, a janky website. I'm calling your website janky. I hope it won't offend you.
You're not.
You go from a link on a janky website to a robust path of least resistance, cloned after the Domino's of the world websites.
Yeah.
To an app, a loyalty program, an email marketing program. What else?
The dedicated rep. I know I'm missing big things here. The dashboard that's super easy. App. SEO. Oh! I got to cancel WorkStream,
What's
our
WorkStream?
hiring app, because
How
of
much money
that.
did that cost?
Oh, I was spending $175 a month.
Okay, so now it's costing you $325 for owner.com?
Yeah. Because of, and I kept going back to Adam. Hey, whatever you've done, I am getting so many job applications. Like, I'm confused. I was trying to figure out where the employment portal of owner was. And I was asking my account manager, and then Adam got back to me, and he's like, Timirie, there is no, he's like, thank you for, I'd like to take the credit that you've had such an increase in applications. Coincidentally, at the same time, we've relaunched your website. But it truly was because of them adding that we're hiring and the SEO that was the reason we were having an increase in applications.
Wow.
And here, 16 months later, we still haven't. We still get a steady flow.
Wow. So you went from 500 to 1,500 on a good week stream of revenue from online ordering.
That was a month. I think that was
a month. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
500
ours was
to
bad.
500 to 1,500 a month in revenue.
Mm-hmm.
What after they implemented everything? Like, how long did it take for your online ordering to increase?
It started. That loyalty program catches people in, and it's super easy, and they give away a $500 gift card every quarter. But I would say within 3 months, we were definitely upping our online, we were getting the disposable, we were at a new level. I can't talk specific numbers during that time,
Where are you
I
today?
can tell you 12 months after our
Yeah.
first year, we were at 422% growth over the year prior.
422%
Yeah.
growth. How much of that had to do with things opening back up again? As far as like
Oh,
going
no,
from
no, no,
50
no,
to-
no.
Just
That
online?
was just online sales
422%
of our
growth.
online and delivery
So,
orders
from your best month, 1,500 a month.
to 7,800
Yeah. Wow.
with me not doing anything but signing on with owner.com.
Right.
And it's continued to grow and grow and grow.
Yeah, as consumer habit continues to evolve.
So I am not employed by owner.com, but the success of my business, I feel like I'm sure Adam sold me on all the features and benefits that first night on the phone, but I think it was a little too overwhelming till me actually seeing it in action and all the different components of canceling Workstream, my hiring app. I have a dedicated marketing manager. I have a loyalty program that I now no longer have to pay for through Square, and I don't have to pay for the marketing that I used to do, these cheesy, stupid little emails through. I mean, like, it has replaced and made my life so easy, and I don't have to physically dedicate more than 5 minutes a week to communicating to my account manager what my goals are. Here's the picture of my special, and they take it and run with it. And I get to just operate my restaurant.
So where is your restaurant today after 2 years of being able to be at full capacity? You have online ordering revenue up. You have butts in seats, in 180 seats to be specific. Where are you today?
Well, we should be super, super elated that sales are up 23% this year over last year.
That's awesome.
It's awesome if expenses weren't up 30%.
Yeah, let's pause real quick to thank our sponsors. We'll be right back to unpackage that.
We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that right now Restaurant Systems Pro is offering a no strings attached 60-day trial that will help you improve your systems, increase your profit, and find better work-life balance. All you have to do is click the link below.
We're back. So the last question I asked you is, where are you today? You said cash flow is up 23% from 2022.
Sales were up 23.
Sales up from 22% from 2022 in 2023. However, your cost of goods, labor, what's going on? You said your expenses.
Yeah. Well, we go through 7,500 eggs a week. So when for 10 years you've paid $14 to $16 for a case, and a case is 14 dozen. Anyway, to where you're paying $80. I mean, when it hit 50, we thought it was catastrophic.
Yeah.
We had no idea it was going up to 88. But the buying power of one little stop shop, I don't have the same buying power as IHOP, right?
Yeah.
Of course, their eggs come in a carton. Mine come in shells. So 2022, we lost $250,000.
Wow.
And we were very fortunate to be a recipient of a grant that was given by the SBA called the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. And we received just over that amount that we lost.
Where did the money go? Just in cost of goods?
Oh, cost of goods, labor. We did do a little bit of TV advertising for the first time. We, we underwent that major remodel
Just before the pandemic.
just
$1
before
million.
the pandemic. And I am legally bound by what I am allowed, but that couldn't have gone more wrong. And a good chunk was spent on, we had to rip out our entire quarry tile floor that went in our new kitchen and drink station because the drain vents wouldn't accept water. I could literally take a bucket of water and dump it at the drain, and it would run around it. And we had to spend an obnoxious amount of money to have that floor taken out and re-put in. And what we discovered was they failed to put in one single drain vent. What I learned is, just like with your air conditioning system, where you have to have a return air vent so air can flow, in the drain world, you have to have a drain vent so water can flow. And when you do $1 million remodel project, you assume the people you've hired are smarter than you. So we had some catastrophic heartbreak that would have been very hard no matter what.
Yeah.
But between that, the cost of food, and paying extra, like Heinz chili sauce is a key ingredient in our meatloaf. And right now, we can't get it now until December 15th, which means we have to go buy enough of the little jars and pay stupid prices for that from the grocery store in order to be able to put one of our most popular dishes. And I can give you 100 examples.
I'm
like
so
that.
happy you're willing to get vulnerable, and I know it's not easy to get vulnerable, and I just want to like acknowledge your vulnerability right now. And you know, this is, I mean, if you're listening to this, my mission again is to like share this perspective. So if you're listening to this, you know, maybe you haven't opened your restaurant yet. Maybe you have a dream of opening your restaurant. I sincerely want to talk you out of it if you're not dreaming about this every day, because unless you want it, unless it's everything, unless you wake up in the morning and you're looking at locations online and you're dreaming about menu items, like this is such a hard industry, and it's harder than ever as an independent restaurant owner.
I mean, just go spend that $1 million on the lottery and save yourself a lot of grief.
Yeah. So I mean, what's the future for you guys? What's the whole? Because I know you're. Can I date you?
I have
Late
a couple
50s?
of daughters that are, our future. I'm humble enough to say that Patrick and I are not the smartest business operators. Neither one of us have a college degree in marketing. I have a degree in elementary education. He got his associates in his culinary professional school. And we feel that we have taken the Doodah Diner as far as our own resources know how to take it, right? It's the first restaurant either one of us have owned.
Opened
We
in
know
your
there's
40s.
I know.
This is a young person's game. I applaud you guys for
I
taking
know.
on that challenge.
So many
Like-
people have said, can you imagine if you guys had opened this in your 30s? Like, yeah, we're tired.
Yeah, we
It's been
think about it
11
every
years.
day.
I mean, you age faster than the dogs. Like, dogs are at 7 years to a year. We're like at 12. But I think our future is super bright, because I think we have what we call the magic of Doodah, is something that
Sold.
many restaurants can't buy. That magic, it comes, and we've set up a brand that is recognized nationwide. I mean, 69th best in the nation, and those reviews come in from all states. We have from everywhere. So what we're envisioning and hoping for is that somebody believes in what we have created in the brand and can come in and partner with us and put those systems and structures in place and help my husband get out from being the workhorse.
Yeah, I don't want to share too much personal information about your husband, but he's dealing with some health issues.
Oh, he totally. A torn rotator cuff and torn meniscus.
How did that happen?
Putting cardboard in the dumpster while he's standing on the back of his pickup truck
One
here
misstep.
in the diner.
One misstep.
Yeah, on a Monday, here by himself. And, that man is so amazing. When I say you have one of the keys to owning and operating, I think, as a mom and pop, is that Patrick, having grown up in the restaurant industry, is pretty darn handy. He could climb up literally on top of the walk-in cooler and make adjustments to the thermostat or the fan and get it back going. And when the bathrooms would start to clog up at 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning, he hops in his pickup truck, goes to Lowe's, rents that 100-foot auger, gets back. I mean, yeah, we may have lost an hour of operation, but he will troubleshoot and try to fix. And when you have equipment, like we walked into used equipment, like $1,200 rent, turnkey. You don't have to sign a lease. I don't have to get a deposit from you guys because I don't have a prayer that think that you guys will even be here for 2 more months, our landlord. So the fact that he had those handyman skills was a definite benefit to us. But yeah, he's been dealing with incredible pain over the last year.
Like, no doubt, Doodah's success is 100% because of the people in this restaurant. It's due to the people, the values, the culture, the relationships that the people in the 4 walls of this building are able to make, and the dedication to excellence and the brand and to doing the right thing and taking the hard path, to do it the hard way, because the hard way is many times the right way.
Yeah, I mean, at least taking it the hard way, back to that muscle memory. I mean, you're doing it so much that the excellence comes out. It's easy to continue the excellence when it's the norm.
What is the mission for Doodah Diner?
To continue improving the lives of those in our community and those that travel far and wide to spend their hard-earned money. We want to give them back 100%. And I'm not sure that that's really our values, but
what I'm hearing from you is that you have an infinite game.
Oh yeah.
And I just recently I listened to Simon Sinek's The Infinite Game, and I hear like what you've built is an infinite concept, where you built something really special, and it sounds like what I'm hearing from you, your future is you want to pass the baton, you want to hand it off to the next generation of people who value this area. So I mean, I'm putting a pitch out there. If we found
the right person,
I'm putting a pitch out there for you. If you're listening to this, I think we've listed tons of reasons why it's like
Wichita is an appealing place.
I mean, it's a momentum market,
you know.
And if you're listening to this and you have spent your life in the hospitality industry, and you want to continue to spend your life in the hospitality, you're young, you have time, you want to go to a place where you can start a new life, and
we're still a part of it. We're our daughters have no desire to take on this legacy.
There is a baton being held, and it's looking for a hand to be passed to right now.
It really is, because it would really be sad. I mean, Patrick and I have given all that we can, and we know the potential is so huge. I mean, we have the ideas, we have the fast casual spinoff. I mean, we have legit great opportunities. We don't have the physical stamina at this point to make that happen.
Yeah.
But we have a proven concept.
Yeah.
And we're full. We have a great
Tuesday.
set. I know. Look at this Tuesday.
10:30. The breakfast rush is over. There's still butts in seats. This place has been jamming. And you guys have built something truly special here.
Well, I appreciate, and please don't think I take that lightly. I never would have guessed. We were hoping to be able to pay a mortgage on a house that was bought when we were at twice the income. And we really didn't get a paycheck for 5 years. And we really have a team. This isn't just Patrick and I. I mean, I have core people that have been with us here since the beginning. I have people that I knew could hold off on cashing that paycheck. When you don't have even a company credit card and you have sales tax and payroll in that same week, the stress.
Yeah. What's frustrating is too is you've done the work, And
we've gotten through the really hard part.
Yeah, and the timing just kind of really hit you guys.
Yeah.
With the So my heart goes out to you. You know.
Well, thank you. I mean, the testament that we're still open just means we're crazy.
I feel like your story's just beginning, even though you're 12 years into this. I think the
popularity has been amazing. I'm ready for that whole profitability chapter to kick in. No.
I'm excited for you guys, and I'm excited what's going to happen. My gut tells me that the ending of the story is going to be really great. Somebody's listening to this. Somebody's going to reach out to you. They're going to think about this is a turnkey concept brand with loyal. I'm talking loyal.
I mean,
customers.
ESPN has given us somewhere close to 70 shout outs in 10 years.
Yeah.
We got loyalty.
I think we've sold it, sister. I think you're gonna get. I think we put it into the universe, and I think there's gonna be a return on this conversation for you. I really do. I
see an RV in your future.
I do. I'm making that happen. You know, you inspired me. You really did inspire me. So we're sitting out. We're watching the Eagles Chiefs game last night, and you were telling me about.
Chiefs lost.
Yeah,
I know you were probably happy, but
I mean, I am an East Coaster. I gotta say.
I wanted to cry when that guy dropped Patrick
fan of
Mahomes' pass at the end. Like my mama heart just wanted to run and give that poor dude a hug.
But you were telling me about your RV last night.
I know.
And I was like, oh my God, girl, I'm so jealous. I was like, how'd you know I'm trying to live in an RV right now? You actually inspired me. You said, why don't you just go through private investment? It's like you have this podcast, you have people that listen to you who have resources, I'm sure. Just put it out into the universe. And I actually this morning I was recording my closing thoughts for my last episode that went live this morning. Well, they'll be going live on Thursday. And I said, hey, if you're listening to this and like you want to support this mission to inspire, empower, and transform the industry, the only way I know how to do it is to literally sacrifice myself to the road, because I struggle keeping up with 2 episodes a week and working on the business.
Right.
So the only way I can work on the business and keep up with that content and have it be genuine and authentic and take a journalistic approach where I'm going to ask you who you think I should talk to and really let the industry steer the ship of Restaurant Unstoppable, I have to give myself to the road. And I have to take my office with me so I can work on the business while I'm traveling and have literally a bed and office on wheels. And that's kind of the goal. So if you want to see this podcast grow and you want to support this mission to change the world through inspiring, empowering, and transforming the industry in an honest, holistic, meaningful way, email me, eric@restaurantunstoppable.com, because I'm looking to raise some money and I can't do it alone. And before we find out how we can get in touch with you, I want to ask you 3 more questions before I wrap up. So what's one thing about your business, a value, a process, a system that makes you uncommon, that truly makes you unstoppable?
The dedication and the commitment to fresh foods. People know we do it differently, and it's sad that more restaurants, it's just not affordable. They make it not affordable to use fresh, unfrozen, fresh vegetable. Like, it's just so much cheaper to use processed, pre-cooked crap. That our commitment to the best products and making sure that the quality, that every dish that's put out is perfect.
Your dedication to your values of
we won't compromise them. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not worth it to us to put out we've had mentors, especially last year, as we were struggling. And I mean, our future's looking bright. Sales have really been good this year. And owner.com, I sing their praises, because it's not necessarily anything I've done except for partner with
strategic
owner.com.
partnership. I think to push back on what you're saying, I think that it is possible to do what you do. I think the only way it's possible is with strategic partners.
Yeah.
And staying in your lane so you can do what you do and find the people who find the technological
They're the
partners.
experts in all of the marketing and all of that.
And I think that's the only way. You got to, you might be spending $400 a month or whatever it is. $4.99 a month for marketing. Yeah, you might be spending whatever it is, $300, $400 a month for another system. What you get in return outweighs that. And that's what you can't see what you're paying up front. You have to see what you're saving over time. You have to think of it that way. The efficiencies, the systems. Like, you have to think about that, because you cannot do it on your own.
I know. And I'm a foodie, and I share it with so many other restaurant owners, because I'm not a salesperson for owner.com.
Yeah.
I am a really happy customer.
Yeah.
And there is enough business out there for all of us.
Yeah.
That, I mean, the pie is big enough.
Yeah.
And
Abundance mentality. And
a
the
total
pie's
abundance.
better when shared.
So much better. Or monkey bread.
Yeah, I'm going to
better
have some
when
of that before I get going. The mission statement is to change the world through inspiring, empowering, and transforming the industry. How have you personally transformed as your 12 years as an owner?
I am going to give credit. I have transformed. One of our secret sauces is the second chance employers. That we're a second chance employer, which means I hire those that are in the criminal system, that are in addiction recovery. It fills my heart to see that a place with 4 walls can truly impact someone's life who had no hope. I've seen it time and time again, and I've seen them transform and become members of society that we need to duplicate, and becoming leaders in the addiction community, and their appreciation for having been given an opportunity when others wouldn't talk to them. It's a genuineness that is not a pitch. It's truly a way of life here at Doodah. And that's very duplicatable. While we'd like to think it takes Patrick and I to make Doodah Diner, that's not true. I mean, it's the team that we've set the standard, and we're here to oversee it. Patrick on a very daily basis. Me less, as my child has gotten into middle school. I'm exploring that RV life and my new permanent jewelry business.
We're going to start a little convoy. I can't wait.
We are totally. And I just want to go to all the restaurants, in the world, and I want to give them a hug, and I want to say, this is the hardest damn business. Excuse my French.
I've said worse.
And I commend the folks out there doing it right, because there is no harder. And the customers have changed. The climate of the employee has changed. And if you don't, I think my husband said it earlier, if you don't absolutely love the hospitality industry and finding ways creatively to make someone else's day, you're never going to make it in this business.
Yeah. I mean, I have kind of I share my mission often. I don't have to repeat that, but I have like a side mission to talk people out of it,
Wow.
to save people a lot of, if you like dinner parties.
I know.
This is not a dinner party.
Do you know how many people in the years have, when I've touched their table and they tell us, when they retire, they want to open a place just like this. And I just look at them like, you've lost your ever-loving mind. We have different definitions of retirement.
Yeah.
I mean, but I will also say it blows my mind when I see concepts that spend $1 million and have all the bells and whistles and all the employees and everything in place before they even know if somebody likes their food.
Right.
And I guess I'm just going to say rejection is God's protection. And I feel that our magic is that we didn't have the bells and whistles. And that, kind of like my parents had to grow up eating ketchup sandwiches, Patrick, we had to grow up kind of writing handwritten tickets and putting a spatula in the oven door so them biscuits could even bake.
Yeah.
And to where we are today, I have a whole newly redesigned kitchen. I have a beautiful dining room. I have a broker to handle all my third-party delivery people that I can't. I don't have the
And I
brain
think you have an
space to deal
asset
with.
that is going to make your retirement very nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The future looks bright.
Yes. The last question I have for you: if you got the news, you'd be leaving this world tomorrow. all the memories of you, your work, and your restaurants will be lost with your departure, with the exception of 3 pieces of wisdom you can leave behind for the good of humanity and your legacy. What would those 3 pieces of wisdom be? This is all you have to leave behind.
Well, first of all, you absolutely have to reserve the right to be smarter. I've said
1.
that a million times. Okay. You have to give without the expectation of receiving.
2.
You have to show up and be willing to work harder and longer than anybody you bring on board.
3. This has been a lot of work, and you are truly an inspiration. I love what you've done, and there's a lot that came out of your story today that I heard that I was privileged to. That I don't know if you want the whole world hearing, but you are lifting people up. And you're doing the hard work, and you're taking the path of, into the obstacle, the hard path. But that is the right path, and I commend you for being somebody who has the willpower and the values to not sway from doing the right thing.
Thank you.
Now, if we listen to this and we're inspired by you, and we want opportunity, we want to get out of the big city, we want to start anew, and maybe we're interested in pitching ourselves to you as a future partner to receive the baton, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Timirie at doodadiner.com. Now, that would be TIMIRIE. Isn't it handy that my mom gave me such a complicated name but made every other letter an I?
Yeah. I love my mom, don't get me wrong, but I wish she let my dad call me Rocco Cacciatore, because that would have been... Cacciatore is pretty badass, but I'd be famous by now if I was Rocco Cacciatore, I feel like.
Oh, I was in inside sales not long out of college when Jean-Claude Van Damme hit the real popular martial arts movie scene, and I was selling Yellow Page advertising, Yellow Page advertising in inside sales. And I am still friends to this day with the coworkers. And they will just laugh at how many times I would spell my name literally 50 times a day and tell the story. Oh, no, I'm not related to Jean-Claude. And no, my parents didn't want a boy first. I have a boy named Timothy. I have a older brother named Doug, and my dad's name is not Timothy, it's Henry. So
it's a great name, though. I love it.
My name in sales was always my icebreaker. And by the time they hear the story and how I got my name, we're friends and laughing, and they forget that I'm a salesperson that they're not really supposed to let
It's a
through.
great way to stand out. If I ever have a son, he's for sure going to be Rocco Cacciatore.
I think that is brilliant.
And the only question I haven't asked you is to call somebody out. And I really want this to be my North Star. I want to do the work. I want to find the leads. Who do you respect and admire in this industry? Somebody who you're just like, you look to in awe of, like, whoa. Like, if I could get that person to be a guest on Restaurant Unstoppable, I would absolutely listen to that episode.
So many, but I would say at the top of my list, I'm going to go with Brent and Brad Stevens here in Wichita. In the time we've been open, they've gone from 2 concepts to, I'm thinking, 7 or 8 concepts. And they have the systems in place. We frequent all of their concepts, and they never miss.
Yeah.
And I admire what they bring, but they do it right. And they are growing at a rate, and they're keeping up with it. When I see what they do, I'm in so much awe, because I can hardly think past these 4 walls, because it's just Patrick and I. And they now have a small army, but they're still ever present. They're in their restaurants.
That's what I like to say is, like, you should create a restaurant that you want to be at. But you should also have the choice to not be at it.
Yes.
And I love people who choose to be at their restaurants because they want to be there. That's what the world needs.
Yep.
So, Stephen Hospitality Group, look out. I'm coming after you. I'd love to get you on the show. You already told us how we can connect. That's Timirie at thedoodahDiner.com. Or just doodahdiner.com.
Just Doodah.
At doodahdiner.com.
DOODAHDINER.com.
And this is episode 1048. So head over to restaurantstoppable.com/1048 to find a summary of today's discussion. Links to owner.com because, full disclosure, they are a sponsor. I'm super grateful to have them as a sponsor. And I'm really just impressed by what they're doing over there. Frankly speaking, Adam first reached out to me, I want to say almost... It was like 2 years ago, over 2 years ago, and he just wanted to talk. And he told me about what he was doing with owner.com. At that time, I was like, this is a really young company. Like, you seem like a really smart dude, and I feel like you're on to like amazing things, and you got a great domain. Like, that's awesome. And like, you can tell when you talk to Adam, and he was a guest on the show. If you haven't checked out his episode, it was huge. I should probably give the link to that episode.
It was an hour and 45 minutes, and I had to listen to it in 3 different sections, and I've listened to it now 3 times. Because even though I know him and I'm a customer, I learned it wasn't about owner. It was very great insight.
That was episode 1036, if you haven't checked out that episode yet. And like, he reached out to me again. I think the way we ended that first conversation was like, reach out to me again in the future, get some clientele, and like, I need testimonials. And like when you can get me testimonials, then like, let's talk. And like, what a testimonial this has been, And I think what they're doing at owner.com, that they're just getting started. It's going to be really impressive. So,
which is again why our future looks so bright.
Yeah, and
we're
I'm happy
in
we stayed
their
in touch.
hands.
Yeah, for sure. And this is when I say there is no questioning. You are unstoppable.
Woohoo!
Cheers.